This is an explanation of the sixth argument in my video, A Brief Argument for Christianity. I decided to slightly change this argument from its original form because I wanted to make it more about God than about creatures. But the argument still proves the same points. The argument goes as follows. God contains all positive reality. Only one is its own existence. All others, therefore, have an essence and composition with their existence. A composition is either one of addition or of limitation. Essence cannot be an addition to existence. Thus, essence must be a limitation on existence. Therefore, existence contains all positive reality. Premise 1 is derived from argument 3, which proves that God is his own existence, and argument 4 proves that God is one. For more information on how I come to these conclusions, watch those videos on those arguments. Premise 2 is pretty simple. First, you have to understand that essence it just means what a thing is. But what existence is only one. This is premise 1. Thus, if a creature has existence, it has to be in addition to what it is. That is, if a creature which is other than just existence itself. Another argument you can use is as follows. Multiple things exist. Dogs and cats, they both exist, for example. However, dogs and cats are also different from each other. This ultimately means that there has to be a part which makes a dog the same as a cat, in the sense that it exists, and a part which makes the dog different from the cat, in the sense that a dog is not a cat. If what it is to be a dog were identical to existence, and what it is to be a cat were identical to existence, then they would both be identical to existence, which is absurd, of course. We've proved in argument 4 that God can only be one. And also because if a cat and a dog were identical to existence, then they would also be identical to each other. Thus, there must be a composition between what these things are and their existence. Premise 3 just lays out all of the possible modes of composition. I could see someone debating whether limitation is really a composition, but I see this more as a semantic dispute. The key point is that some other principle has to be involved here besides existence, and limitation is another possible principle. Premise 4 is going to be the premise we're going to have to do the most work on to prove. The argument I'm going to use comes from Norris Clark. Nothing real or positive can be added to existence from without. For what is added must already be real, have existence in it. Otherwise, it is adding on nothing real. Existence envelops absolutely everything in a being that is in any way positive or real. Hence, the essence supposedly added on to produce higher reality would already have to be real to add on anything at all. Hence, the act of existence cannot be a minimum level onto which essences are added as further reality. If they are real, existence already slipped into them. It can never be a minimum. To put it another way, in order for essence to exist, it has to be united to existence in some way, as we concluded in premise 2. If essence were something that exists and is added to existence, it would already have to be united to existence. That is, what it is that makes something different from nothing. It would be redundant, and it wouldn't explain the nature of the original union between essence and existence. Hence, we cannot say that essence is something which exists. But you cannot just add something that doesn't exist to anything. That doesn't make any sense. So rather we say that we're taking away something or a limitation of what exists, which is what premise 5 says. And if you really think about it, this is how we understand definition. Definition is a limitation of our concept of what a thing is. When we understand what a dog is, for example, some of that understanding involves an exclusion of real properties that exist in a cat or anything other than a dog. Part of the reason a dog is because it doesn't meow, for example. There is also a component of positive reality there too. Dogs bark. And that comes from the existence which is left after the limitation. Now, if essence is a limitation of existence, then it follows that existence contains all positive reality. Dogs, cats, humans, planets, etc., all of these things are existence limited by essence. Thus, all of these forms of existence, insofar as they are forms of existence, must exist in God in an unlimited way. Thus, we have gone from the concept of God merely being that which distinguishes something from nothing to being something that is the fullness of being in the sense of containing all positive reality. If we go back to the Catechism of the Catholic Church, we can see a form of this idea of God being the fullness of being, and that all creatures receive all that they are and have from Him. That's where this idea comes from this metaphysical consideration of what God or existence itself has to be. Now, it cannot be that God is literally in creatures being limited, because that would require God to be multiple, which would violate argument 4, and there are several other problems with that, but the fact that God cannot be multiple is sufficient to rule that out. Instead, think of how light is limited by shadow to present different limited forms. As you get closer to the source, the light becomes more and more universal, but it is limited by an object that causes it to cast a shadow of a horse, a dog, or what have you. That's what God is like. God is, as 1 John 1:5 says, pure light. It is this privation of light by analogy that forms what a creature is. The essence of existence itself is an active thing that comes forth from God and is limited like pure light to be a creature. But God Himself is pure light. And as we said in the conclusion, contains all positive reality. Thanks for watching.